Hey, buddy, watch this.
Hello, hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Heroes of the Storm is the game, and these are my first impressions of the brand new hero, Zul'jin. He just hit the live servers, so he is officially out, and he's the first troll hero from the World of Warcraft universe, or I should say the Warcraft universe perhaps, to hit the game, so it's pretty fantastic. Most of the races are actually accounted for now that Zul'jin is here. I think Draenei are about the only thing missing. But anyway, as far as this video is concerned, I'm just going to go ahead and take my very first look at Zul'jin. These are legitimately my first impressions. I know almost nothing about the hero. This is the first time I've played him at all, so we'll learn about his trait, his abilities, his talents, all that fun stuff, and hopefully by the end of the video have a pretty good sense of how to play Zul'jin and perhaps identify some of his strengths and weaknesses. So, first things first, he is a ranged assassin. He's basically going to throw axes here. I don't know where these axes come from. He seems to just pull them out of thin air, but he's got apparently unlimited axes. He's just going to keep throwing forever and ever. He has a pretty sizable health pool. That's certainly enough to work with at 4K. Standard mana resource here, it looks like. His trait is called Berserker, and you can activate this to increase your basic attack damage by 25%, but you consume 2% of your maximum health per attack. And there's a secondary effect here, is a passive effect that Zul'jin actually attacks 1% faster for every 1% of your maximum health missing. So I guess if you're 1% health, you're basically attacking twice as fast. So we can activate this to give ourselves a nice little attack buff. And you'll notice our health is going down a little bit with every attack, and this is apparently our attack speed meter here as well. And I guess you can just leave this active forever, right? There's no, or until you kill yourself at the very least. So I guess you can sort of go nuts, and you can see that happening already. Like, look how fast he's starting to attack. And this is for 303 damage at level 20, which isn't a ton, but at this attack speed, that's ridiculous amounts of damage. So I better turn it off here, stop attacking. So we're at 97%. Now how long does this... Oh, so it starts to just dissipate over time. Even after you turn it off, it stays at 95%. But it goes down over time as I guess as your health just naturally regens, right? So, yeah. So a healer, of course, healing you is going to take your attack speed down. So there's going to be a very fine balancing act here of getting yourself at low health to increase your damage output, but still staying alive. And it's going to take good healers to understand that relationship, and a good player to stay safe and understand when they can risk going low. But I'm sure that Zul'jin's power curve is really when he hits, like, especially below 50% health, but probably it feels like even lower than that. So if you can stay low and still stay in the fight, I think he's going to become incredibly dangerous. So it feels to me already like this is a higher skill cap character, probably not going to be the best hero for new or weak players to endeavor to play. In some ways, kind of like Gul'dan, I guess, another hero that sort of uses his health as a resource. So might feel a bit like Gul'dan in that regard, but I think I like this better because it's basic attacks instead of spell damage. So it happens a little bit more organically as opposed to mechanically managing that. This is a more passive process, as you'd note from the passive word here in his trait. Okay, so up next, let's go ahead and take a look at the basic abilities. So I don't even know what his basic abilities are. First is his Q, Grievous Throw. 50 mana is pretty standard. 8-second cooldown is pretty average. Zul'jin throws an axe forward because he has an unlimited number of those, dealing 274 damage to the first 2 enemies hit and marking them for 8 seconds. Marked enemies take 50% bonus damage from Zul'jin's next 3 basic attacks. So you throw this. What do we attack for by default? It's 242. It's 303 with our trade on. We mark this, and now it goes to 363. It's for 3 attacks, right? So it's 363 without the trait. It's 424 with the trait. So that's pretty heavy hitting, particularly when you're at a higher attack speed like this. So that's a nice little ability, and it marks 2 enemies Not that I think that's necessarily incredibly relevant, because usually you're going to be attacking one person primarily. Although this lasts long enough, this debuff lasts 8 seconds, so you could hit one guy 3 times, switch targets to the other guy you hit him 3 times. But usually that doesn't help a ton, because you're trying to finish off one person most of the time. So switching attacks like that might not be rewarded, unless that person dies, of course, and then you can switch to the next guy. So it could work out. But this is a nice little ability, just another way to buff your auto attacks, and it does seem like Zul'jin is pretty auto attack based. And I just noticed he glows, like these tattoos glow based on his buff here. When he's berserking, it seems he starts to glow. As far as I can remember, he was not glowing previously. Let's hit the base here and see if we can turn off the glow. Is that accurate? Maybe he's still glowing. Oh, that's because my trade is on. Duh. Oh, cool. That's even more obvious. Awesome. Well, yeah, that's a nice visual indicator both for you and for opponents to let you know when exactly Berserker is up. Alright, so let's move on to his W here. It's called Twin Cleave, and this targeting reticle doesn't make any sense just yet. But it's 60 mana, 8 seconds, so again, pretty standard stuff. Throw 2 axes in a large circular arc. Okay, so you can target it like this. It's just basically 1 axis in a circle around him. And that deals damage, 246 damage. It slows enemies by 15% per axe. Oh, that's pretty cool. So that's interesting. You can do stuff like make a circle around yourself. How cool. This is going to be a pretty neat skill shot to hit. It's going to take a lot of practice to learn how this works, but I think if it works, you're going to be able to hit targets multiple times. You saw how often the axes, each axe hit basically here, and depending on where enemies are at, like being in the middle of a group means you're going to be able to hit a lot of stuff, but it's also going to require a lot of finesse as far as normally abilities move in a line, so you can kind of just point them in a direction no matter how far away you are, it's going to hit. This one requires you to be at a specific distance to work, right? Like, it's not just about the straight line. Like, this was in target, but he's too close, so it's going to require really neat stuff, like, if somebody's really close to you, you're going to have to line this up perfectly. If they're standing to your left, it'll have to go here. If they're standing behind you, it's going to be an unusual thing. If somebody's standing behind you to hit them, you're going to have to sort of point it diagonally backwards, right? So it's going to take a lot of practice to get this right, but it does damage. It has potential for a pretty big hit with, if both axes hit, that's 500 damage. And slows are always nice too. It's soft CC, soft crowd control, up to 30% maybe? Yeah, 15% per axe. So 30% slow in particular would be really nice, particularly for a hero like this that seems like if he sticks on you and is able to hit you a lot with these crazy attack speeds, he's going to be pretty nuts. So moving on to his E, it's Regeneration, 75 mana, a little more expensive, longer cooldown too at 15 seconds. Zul'jin channels to regenerate 25% of his maximum health over 4 seconds, so we can take some of our health down here. Moving while channeling or taking damage will interrupt this effect, so a pretty standard... Yeah, see, it's weird, you have to aim... Oh, that backfired, right? You gotta aim over here to hit the guy right in front of you. That's gonna require a lot of learning, particularly if you don't play with targeting reticles, if you play on cast, so let's hit our E. Alright, so this just gives you a little bit more control, right? Like, a little more control over your health. It's 15-second cooldown, so this will be able to... This is essentially a tool that allows you to commit to berserking and taking a lot of damage without just totally ruining your laning presence or, sticking out of the fight for too long, because you can just back up, hit E, and it says regenerating, like the trolls speak. Trolls, tend to have sort of a Jamaican accent, so it's funny that the status bar even indicated that as well. That's awesome. But anyway, a nice little ability just to provide some sustain, but obviously it's not in combat sustain like heroes like Thrall might have that sort of thing. It's more about long-term kind of background sustain. So all that said, I think we've covered its basic abilities in good detail, so let's jump into the talents and move through these. First is Bone Slicer. Grievous Throw now pierces through all enemies, and the bonus damage is increased by 15%. So that's our Q. Right now, I guess Oh, it only hits 2 enemies now. This means it could hit a ton of people. It could hit all 5, theoretically, if they happen to be standing in a perfect line. And the bonus damage is increased to 65%, which is a nice little boost. So I don't know how often you're going to be hitting more than 2 people with this kind of ability anyway. It's possible perhaps to hit 3, but 4 feels like a real stretch. So I don't know that this is going to pay off a ton, but even just that attack damage increase does have some value on its own. So this isn't a terrible talent by any means. There's also the Arcanite Axes, lower the cooldown of Twin Cleave by half a second for every hero hit. Also, this passive is where I think the power is really at here. When below 50% health, ability power is increased by 25%. That said, actually Zul'jin does not have a ton of ability damage, it seems. I don't actually know what his heroic abilities are yet, but these abilities, increasing their damage by 25%, certainly not bad, but I don't know that they hit often enough or hard enough that that's going to be a sort of game-changing talent for him. But the cooldown could be, because you can just spam it, mana would become an issue eventually, but if you hit 3 or 4 people here, you're taking the cooldown down by 20-40% or something, depending on the people you hit. So again, not bad. A little harder to work with because I do think W is going to be hard to hit, but that's my opinion. There's also You Want Axe. Every 5 basic attacks against heroes increase Zul'jin's basic damage by 1.5. And after attacking heroes 120 times, his attack range is increased by 20%. So that, to me, feels like the far away winner here. Zul'jin's definitely going to be auto-attack based just because of the way his trait works. And, a 1.5 damage increase doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're attacking as fast as he is, right, it becomes pretty crazy at the end, especially when it's stacking up to, every 5 basic attacks. So it's 120 times is going to be, 180 damage per extra per attack, which is pretty nuts. Plus range is also fantastic. So we might be able to build this up. I'm not sure if this counts as an enemy hero. It does. We just got a questing, so of course we have to be careful with our health. But I don't know if we have a way to heal ourselves using the panel here. I guess not. We could perhaps turn on Malfurion, see if he can keep us alive while we build up these things. But you'll see our attack damage climb here as I talk through the level 4 talents. So moving on to Troll's Blood, the regeneration heal amount is increased by 75%. That's a lot. Let's actually take that real fast to see that in action. Oh, that's significantly more on the bar. Wow. That feels pretty good right off the bat, particularly for me who's testing the level 1 talent quest here. There's also Let the Killing Begin. When Zul'jin kills an enemy, his attack speed is increased by 6%, up to 30% for 15 seconds. Basic attacks refresh the duration. Hero takedowns instantly grant 30% attack speed. That is crazy. So that first is, I guess minions count for the first half of this, right? It's an enemy. It's not an enemy hero. So you're going to be able to balance a attack speed increase of 30%. It seems like pretty easily because you're going to be refreshing it on every attack. So I think this is sort of a wave clear talent. And takedowns, of course, giving you an instant boost is nice in team fights as well. That combined with your standard, trait attack speed buff is going to be absolutely insane. That's got to be fun to watch. There's also Headhunter, 60-second cooldown. Get a takedown on all unique enemy heroes, and the reward is activate to reveal all enemy heroes. Well, that's cool. We've never seen anything like that. So that's a vision talent that as soon as you kill all 5 members of the enemy team, you're able to activate a new talent that reveals the entire enemy team every 1 minute. That's incredibly valuable. Vision is hyper underrated by most players. It's hugely important, and that's going to be an awesome vision tool just to see where they're at on the minimap for those 4 seconds, or if they're hiding in a bush or something, and you're trying to secure a kill. The problem is, I think, in really, really good games, there may be scenarios where enemy teams see that you take this talent and just absolutely deny you a kill and turtle up and maybe save one guy in the back all the time, or don't play aggressively and kind of deny the value here. So there is some risk there, but I honestly like all three of these talents. I don't know that you could go wrong with any of these. Troll's Blood is probably the least team fight impacting, but could have some pretty important implications all the same. So I'll take any three, I think. So moving on to level 7, it's Vicious Assault up first. Increase the number of bonus damage basic attack hits from Grievous Throw to 6. So normally it bonuses 3 basic attacks. This takes it to 6. Basic attacks against afflicted heroes also reduce the cooldown of Grievous Throw by 2 seconds. Wow, so that actually is sort of insane. So before it did... Oh my god, is this... Oh, I got cooldowns. It's like, wait a second. Still though, look at this. This is crazy. This is not... this is not with cooldowns off. This is how it works. So if you're able to stick to a target and hit them consistently after hitting your Q, you're going to be able to throw Qs constantly, which means you're going to be doing increased damage to them on the regular. That's really, really awesome. That's going to stack out of control, it feels like, in a real hard engagement. That's going to get a lot of value. There's also wrong place, wrong time. If an enemy is hit by both Twinkly Axes at the same time, they take 300 bonus damage. So that probably won't be a talent for me. I suspect it's just not going to be that easy to hit people, particularly at the exact same time. I don't know how finicky that is, but I guess if you know the timing of this travel, it may not be that hard to hit both at the same time. So see there, I mean, if you're a little off, right, like those did not hit at the same time. But if you aim the cursor and you know the... I guess it's doable. It's doable, but I don't know that 307 bonus damage is all that significant. It doesn't say from each axe, right? So it is a total of 300. I think I'd rather have Vicious Assault here, in my opinion. There's also Recklessness. While Zul'jin is below 50% health, his basic attack damage is increased by 25%. So this is another talent that rewards your really aggressive low health risk play. So good players are going to be able to take advantage of that and go nuts. It seems Recklessness will be the best if you're very, very good at managing your health and staying alive and committing to that style of play. Otherwise, I suspect Vicious Assault will work better. So let's move on to his heroic ability, starting off with Taz'dingo, 50 mana, 1 minute cooldown. Relatively short for a heroic. Not too bad. For the next 4 seconds, Zul'jin is unkillable and cannot be reduced to less than 1 health. That's pretty neat. That's awesome, because that's exactly what rewards the style of play that makes his trait so good, right? Like, we want to be at low health. We want to stay alive and be able to really commit. So, yeah, so we're unkillable. So see, we've got the bar there to indicate that, and we live through a tower shot or 2, and that's awesome. And then, you can hit your E afterwards. So that's a neat little 4 damage immunity, basically, that means you can go crazy with attack speed, attack damage, stack all that stuff that we've seen so far, and opponents will just have to ignore you. If they try to kill you when you're in that state, they're just wasting time in auto attacks, which means you can just beat on them relentlessly or force retreats. So that's awesome. That's going to be really, really good. There's also the Guillotine, 70 mana, 45 seconds, so even shorter cooldown here. Zul'jin launches... Let's reset our talents here to actually see this in action. Zul'jin launches a massive axe into the air that drops on the target area, dealing 446 damage, plus bonus damage the lower his health is. So what does this look like? Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. And look at this range. That's nuts. And that dealt 858. Wow. As good as I think that first talent is, I'm not sure this one's not going to be better. Let's take his health real, real low, right? Let's get him to 97 or something. 96 is good enough. And now let's cast this. Oh my god! 2,000 damage! You're talking about an ability that nearly one-shots some heroes, and certainly, I mean, the Murkies and Avathars of the world, but close to the mages, right? Like, anybody that's running away from you is going to get shredded if you can hit this. Now, clearly, It has a cast time, which means it can't actually be interrupted. That bar means somebody sending you is going to ruin it. But also, you know, it's just hard to time. And it's a pretty narrow skill shot. So it's not the easiest thing I've ever seen to hit. But certainly an ability that can work and will secure kills. And even if you use it right in front of yourself, right? If you're engaged in a duel or something, it's going to be significant. So that's really awesome. I think really high level players will still prefer Taz'dingo just because the invulnerability in high skill play is going to be invaluable. But Guillotine, otherwise, for most players, it feels like it's going to be better. So let's move on to 13. There's the Eye of Zul'jin. Hitting an enemy hero with Grievous Throw increases Zul'jin's movement speed by 25% for 2 seconds. So this is just something that helps you lock in. Hit them with the Q. You want to make sure you're able to keep applying basic attacks because you're hitting them harder than you're supposed to because your Q worked. So this just gives you movement speed to help you stay connected. And if stutter stepping's not quite enough, this will help you close that distance. There's also Forest Medicine. Regeneration no longer has to be channeled, allowing Zul'jin to perform other actions while regenerating. However, taking damage will still end the effect. Now, that doesn't seem that good then, because it's not like you can use it in combat. I mean, you can still auto-attack. You can do other things on minions, perhaps. But, I don't know. That just doesn't feel like it's going to give enough back. I don't think that's high impact enough. There's also the Voodoo Shuffle. Activate to remove all current root and slow effects on Zul'jin. So it's, you know, sort of a self-cleanse in a way. That'll be good. You can't go wrong with cleanse. And being able to make escapes or close gaps from somebody who has rooted you or slowed you is very impactful. So I think Voodoo Shuffle is actually the best option here in this tier. The other two, I mean, they're all sort of utility abilities, but Voodoo Shuffle certainly seems to offer the most utility. Moving on to level 16, there is Swirling Death. Twin Cleave's axes cycle twice and can hit enemies in each revolution, but its cooldown is increased by 4 seconds. So I don't know exactly what that means, but... Oh, so it just does another circle. So that, as you can tell, looks decent against like forts and towers. And it's just going to create kind of chaos on the battlefield, but it doesn't make the skill shot any easier to hit, because if you're trying to hit somebody who's like running away or you're trying to target a specific person, you're going to get that one chance to do it when they're at the peak of the circle, right? So the second rotation is going to help in those scenarios, and I think that makes this a merely average talent. There's also Lacerate, increases the slow amount of each Twin Cleave axe by an additional 15%. Slows are good, so if you're hitting this ability a lot, then Lacerate might work, particularly if you have a team that's able to close gaps and stun people and secure kills by being really aggressive and chasing and committing. Otherwise, perhaps this isn't that good. There's also Ferocity, increases the attack speed bonus of Berserker by 40%. I don't think you can go wrong there. There's clearly a build here that lets you just go crazy with attack speed. You've got Let the Killing Begin. You've got, of course, just your trait itself. And you've got now Ferocity. I don't know what's going to happen, but it sure seems like you're going to be insane, just firing axes at like machine gun speed. I don't want to try to recreate that right here in this particular video, but I can't wait to try Zul'jin with that build just to see how nuts he actually gets. So there's clearly a build there that works really well, and it probably supports Taz'dingo really nicely too, because that's when you're going to be the most ferocious and the fastest, is when you're at that 1 health for those 4 seconds. So that's pretty cool. So let's move on to, finally, level 20. More heroic talents here. We've got Mani Resilience. When Taz'dingo ends, Zul'jin heals for 50% of the damage he dealt during Taz'dingo. That's awesome, because it makes his Taz'dingo heroic even less committal. Like, there's obviously a point where when you get to 1 health, 4 seconds, if you don't kill the entire enemy team, there's a chance you're just going to die because you're at 1 health. Like, you either have to have a super on-point healer who heals you immediately, or at least keeps you, alive during your Taz'dingo without penalizing your damage too much. But this means that you're a little safer. So as soon as you pop, as soon as that that bar empties and you lose your invulnerability, you are instantly healed for a bunch of damage, and likely it's going to be a lot of damage because you're going to be attacking so fast. You know, we're hitting for 400. I don't know exactly how much damage we could do in 4 seconds, but it's not hard to imagine it being 2,000 plus based on these attack speeds, and perhaps even more with stuff like your Q and your other abilities, right? So I suspect the heal will be 1,000 to 2,000 every time, maybe even more if you go absolutely crazy with attack speed talent. So it's going to be a 30, 40, 50% heal or better, which is very, very nice. It's like a second health bar almost, which is cool. There's also the Buzzsaw upgrade to the Guillotine. After impact, the Guillotine continues forward, dealing 50% of Guillotine's damage to enemies in the line. I gotta see that. Oh, that's so good. The line is so long. So it hits for 800 and then 400, even, you know, at 60% health. It's gonna make it so annoying to avoid that if you're trying to run and make an escape, right? Even if someone is like at the fountain or trying to hearth after they've safely exited, like look how far away you can be and still hit the fountain, right? I'm gonna be at this siege camp and still be able to pick somebody off at the fountain. Look at that. They're never gonna be able to expect that. And it's on a 45-second cooldown. That's actually insane. Look how far it goes. Oh, he's gonna drink up, he thinks. Let's see about that. Nope. There's the last 400 to kill him. He's dead. Or you could just poke fountains down too, right? Like that's a thing too. I mean, 45 seconds, the shield's probably gonna come back up, but it's the utility here seems nuts. That's really awesome. And then one last talent. There's also Ensnare, cooldown of 60 seconds. Throwing that forward, rooting the first enemy hit for 2 seconds. So just gives Zul'jin a little bit more utility and crowd control, but I can't envision a world where this is better than either of the other two talents. They both seem so strong. So I don't see this one getting a lot of play. I don't think he's a crowd control type hero. I think he's a run and gun and really committal hero that wants to fight and make plays. So I don't think that's going to be all that useful. The other two seem just far too good. He only has 3 talents on 20, which is a little light, but I like it. It's a nice, clean set of talents. So all that said, that wraps up Zul'jin's talents. I can't even begin to propose a build. I mean, obviously there is some... Oh, the guillotine damage is tracked right here. I didn't even see that. There's some sort of attack speed build. There's a W build too, but I don't think that's going to be very good. I think guillotine is better for most players. So I think if I had to build one, it'd probably be an attack speed build with guillotine and the voodoo shuffle here at 13 and probably ferocity again at 16 because that's attack speed. And I think that'd be a nice starter build, but who knows where this guy's going to go. As far as strategy is concerned, it's obvious. I mean, I think as a base hero, he's going to be pretty weak. His, you know, at 100% health, basically. His numbers just aren't that strong. His attack speed's not that good. He doesn't offer a CC. But if you're able to draw out fights and get his health low and make commitments and have a team to support that, it seems like he's going to be absolutely nuts. So I think it's going to require organized play, allies that understand how Zul'jin works, and certainly a player who understands how he works too. So you'll have to get a feel for Zul'jin, what he's capable of, his thresholds for staying alive and committing into fights, who he can win duels against, how to stay safe, position perfectly, all that fun stuff. So I actually think even though he is an auto-attack hero, in many ways he kind of will have to play a bit more like a mage, just with perfect positioning, understanding your health total, looking for opportunities to do burst damage without killing yourself. So that's going to be an interesting style of play, and I look forward to actually getting this guy into action. As far as whether or not he's overpowered, I suspect he won't be. The thing is, he's got the potential to be really good in really good hands, but most people are going to just get him too low, get greedy, die, commit too hard, and that will even out his win rate a little bit. So I think we'll find he's a pretty balanced hero at first until people really start to figure him out, and then he might skew a little higher. But all that said, if you have any thoughts, comments, or questions on Zul'jin, I'll be giving this guy some games to test him out, so leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching this First Impressions video, and until next time, game on.